Hello and welcome to podcast 30 from Football-Oranje, talking everything Dutch football. I'm Michael Statham and I'm joined by podcast regulars James Rowe and Michael Bell. This time we're focusing upon the end of the Eredivisie season, giving you our teams of the season and answering your questions covering Ajax, PSV and Feyenoord, as well as a preview to a Dutch under-17s adventure to England's Euro 2018. Do the Netherlands' latest potentially world-class young talents have a chance of winning the tournament? You can listen to us or download this podcast on YouTube, SoundCloud and iTunes. Enjoy! I thought it would be nice to maybe start with our Eredivisie teams of the season, as it might be a fair reflection on what's been going on really. Michael, would you like to offer your team of the season first?
Yeah, I've gone for PSV's Jeroen Zoet in goal. I think he's had an outstanding season, and without him, I don't think PSV would have got as many wins as he did. I think he saved them a few times with some outstanding saves, and it's only because of sometimes when he does play for Netherlands, he has made mistakes that he's not the outright number one for his country. But for PSV, he's been outstanding. He was given a very public substitution last week because I think this is the end for him in the Eredivisie. I think he's going to get a big move this summer, and he's going to be very difficult to replace. For right back, it's difficult because there's not very many that have stood out. And I've gone for Santiago Arias of PSV. I think he's been throughout the season a weapon for them on the right hand side. At left back, I've gone for NEC Breda's Angelino. He's had an excellent season. He's now wanted by Ajax and PSV if they can get him away from Manchester City. In the central defence, I've gone for Matthijs de Ligt and Frenkie de Jong. I think when they played together, they created something special in that Ajax back four, and I want to see more of that going forward. Even at the national team, I think when Frenkie de Jong gets back, I know he's a midfielder by trade, but in the central defence, he offers something different for Ajax, which they missed when he got injured. De Ligt has just been a machine throughout the campaign. And even today, he set up a goal with a fine dribble forward and an absolute perfect cross. He's just an outstanding player, and I really hope he stays at Ajax. In midfield, Hakim Ziyech. He's had his criticism, but I think you can't deny that he's probably the best midfielder in the Netherlands by far. His skill, his dribbling ability, his range of passing is just incredible. He had a game today as well. He just shone throughout it. You know, the crowd usually get on his back today. They just appreciate it because it's probably the last time they're going to see him. I've also gone for PSV captain Marco van Ginkel. I don't think they would have won the title without him as well. He popped up with some penalties. When you say that PSV missed the majority of theirs last season, and he's just scored every single one he's taken this year, it's just added extra points. His leadership from midfield has been crucial for them. I've gone for a front three without a striker. I've gone for Hirving Lozano, who, the Mexican he's been great for PSV this season. Feyenoord's Steven Berghuis, they've had a disappointing campaign, but he's contributed goals and assists every single game basically. I still can't believe that he didn't get a chance at Watford because he's just an outstanding player. And Areza Jahan Bakash, who has had a terrific campaign for AZ and is going to go into the World Cup full of confidence, and it's going to be almost impossible for AZ to keep him this season. He's just been outstanding. And up front, I'll go with Frans Sol of Willem II. I think he's been crucial for them this season and keeping him up. He scored a lot of goals for a team that struggled throughout the campaign. He's wanted now by Valencia and several other Eredivisie clubs.
Well, my formation first and foremost is 4-4-2. There are some names that Mike has already named, but I'll go through them nevertheless. I have the same goalkeeper in Jeroen Zoet. I think he's had a tremendous season, and it could be ripe. The time is right for him to move, but I think his choice of club is very, very important. Also with the right back, my right back is the same. Same with Matthijs de Ligt. But then there's a change. I've gone for Excelsior Rotterdam centre back Jurgen Matthij. I think he's had a good solid season in a surprising Excelsior Rotterdam side that has surprised many people with their performances, especially away from home, and having such a small budget has led them to cause surprises. My left back is Joshua Brenet from PSV. I think he's very, very underrated. I think he's very strong, and he always gives good passes, and I think he's been very important in their title-winning season. That's my defence. My midfield is AZ Alkmaar's Johan Baks, who's in fantastic form. He scored I think 18 goals for AZ this season. And then comes Hakim Ziyech, who has been tremendous. I was at the game when they played PSV and Feyenoord at home on the 19th of April, and some of the passes he was spraying was tremendous. He's been linked with a move away. The latest reports here in Amsterdam is that Roma are very much interested. Then comes for me Van Ginkel, to be a captain and to come back after such a terrible injury at Chelsea, to go on to come back to the Netherlands and establish yourself, and then captain a side to win an Eredivisie title. It just goes to show how hard he's worked. And I've deliberately deployed Lozano as a winger in my formation to get my two strikers in. So Lozano has had a tremendous impact since signing for PSV, and he's been able to sign and finish off moves and put balls forward, and he was a real important player. And then my two strikers, I can't agree highly enough with what Mike said regarding Fransol. I think he's come back, and he's just been so important to Willem II, who won again today. And they're a seasoned Eredivisie side, and it just goes to show how much they kind of struggled with Van der Looy trying to get a grip and trying to force his way of going about his business, which they wasn't necessarily receptive with. And then finally I've chosen Labiat from Utrecht, who, although Utrecht are in very poor form at the minute, scoring important goals in wins for them, for example in Amsterdam earlier on in the season, and with his free kick talents and being a dead ball specialist, I've decided to put him up front with Fransol.
Some really good choices, and yeah, again, there's a bit of overlap with my lineup actually. I've also gone for Jeroen Zoet in goal. He's been terrific for PSV, one of the main reasons they have won the Eredivisie title. I've gone with a different, sort of different back four. I've definitely gone for Matthijs de Ligt at centre back. He is by far and away the best centre back in the league, and he's only 18. It's incredible. He partners Schwab in defence, who plays for PSV. Along with Zoet, another reason why PSV have won the league this season. I think Schwab's come along quite well, despite being quite an experienced player. He's really stepped up his game. Fullbacks. I've gone for different fullbacks entirely to you guys. Jonas Svensson, the RZ right back, I think he's been terrific. I don't know how you guys can look past him actually. I know Arias has been a very good player, but Svensson has just been so key in RZ's build-up play, and they're really dangerous down the right-hand side, linking up with Johan Baks because of a player like Svensson who can run up and down the touchline all game long, playing passes, crosses. He even scores a goal occasionally. And that's the same reason why I've picked Alvejan, RZ's left back, in my formation, because again, just really key in the build-up play, and a main reason of why RZ have played so well, and so intricately as well, because of these overlapping wingers that just constantly cause havoc. Now in midfield, I've gone for Hakim Ziyech. He is the Eridivisie's best player. He's shown that again this season. I think at times his attitude could be a little better, but you can't deny his talent. He's far too good for the league. And he partners Donny van der Beek in midfield. I know that Van Ginkel's been key for PSV, but I just think that Van der Beek has developed a lot more than Van Ginkel. I think Van Ginkel sort of stood still over these years at PSV. And despite him scoring some crucial goals, including, being a penalty taker, Van der Beek has just been that player to be the real engine room in the Ajax midfield. In front of those two, I've gone for AZ Alkmaar's Guus Til. Til's just been terrific. He's dropped off the last few games, but what a development from last season when he was only just introduced to the team. He's been a great threat in the box, great with his feet. And yet again, another reason why RZ have played so well. Just another really good midfield player. So on my right wing, I've gone for Alireza Jahanbakhsh. Probably again one of the league's best players. Scored probably he's among the top goal scorers in the league, isn't he? And he's definitely among the top assisters as well for the league. His attitude as well is fantastic. I think he'll go on to have a fantastic World Cup for Iran. Steven Berghuis I've put on the left wing, even though I know he's a right winger. But it's very hard to actually pick a very decent left winger in the Dutch league. I find that there's a lot more right wingers that are on fire this season. But I put Berghuis in the left wing because he's left-footed. But again, just Feyenoord's best player this season. Again, a really dangerous player for the league. Goals, assists, all over. And yeah, Marcel in attack. You can't look past him. There's few of the strikers that have been as consistent as him this season. He's playing in a very poor Villeneuve side. Bearing in mind all the players in my team play in the top 4. Marcel is playing for a mid-table team that has struggled a lot with very average players. But he's still scored 20 goals in 35 games in all competitions this season, and as well as that, he's added 5 assists. He's got to be picked up by a big team this summer. He must be picked up by an English team, I think, or a bigger Eredivisie team, because you can just rely upon him to score loads of goals. And this is coming from a man who's bounced back from having testicular cancer during the season. Just what a fella to really deserve the campaign he's had. For what it's worth, I've got a bench in case anyone was thinking that we missed any players altogether. I picked 7 players, but then I realised that in the Eredivisie it doesn't matter how many substitutes you have. So I've got RZ's Marco Bizot, the goalkeeper, Santiago Arias from PSV. I put Herving Lozano on the bench. I don't think he deserves to be in the team of the season, despite all his effort and his goals. I think sometimes he can go missing in games. And I also think that his 2 red cards have costed PSV crucial points this season, despite them winning the league. David Neres from Ajax, Bjorn Janssen, the ADO Den Haag striker, Wout Weghorst of AZ, Marco van Hinkel's there as well, and I've also got the likes of Mitcho from AZ, Labiad from Utrecht, Brandi Kuvas from Heracles, and Yassin Ayoub from Utrecht. Now, that's our team of the season. I don't know if the listeners agree with that. If they don't agree with that at all, if you want to leave us a comment or shout at us at Twitter, feel free. But how about our managers of the season? James, would you like to start with your manager of the season? Who's your pick?
Yeah, my pick is it's not just because of our interview last August, but I would choose Maurice Stijn. I will admit, Feyenoord are in poor form, lost again today, losing 6 of their last 7. But you've got to remember, this is a team that come up from the Jupiler League last year with the smallest budget in the entire division. They were written off before a ball was even kicked, and they managed to have such a fantastic start with important wins against Sparta and against Twente and against Groningen, and they really started really well, and there was a lot of togetherness in the group. I remember speaking to Maurice Stijn, and he was saying that he wants his players to be able to be open to criticism, and he doesn't like people that complain, and everybody working together to achieve something. And for the fact that Feyenoord have managed to stay up is a credit to him, and a credit to how hard all the players have worked. They're fully deserved, and they gave Ajax a fright as well. In the they lost 4-1, but went 1-0 up on the 19th of April when I attended the match in Amsterdam, and they've got something about them. It remains to be seen if Maurice Stijn will be manager there next year, with the rumours circulating about different clubs. But lots of English Ipswich fans getting excited and asking me on Twitter about this and about that. And my advice to everybody would be, like with everything, you just wait and see. But I tip my hat to Maurice Stijn this year. I think he's done a tremendous job.
I've gone for PSV's Philip Cocu. I think if you look at the way the season started for PSV, they lost a number of key players like David Proper, Jetro Willems, Guardado, and the way they went out of Europe against Osijek, who admittedly I'd never heard of going into the game, and I thought PSV were going to steamroll them. I think they were written off very early, based on last season as well. They had a very poor campaign, and there was a lot of pressure on Cocu going into the season, but you look at it now, PSV have won the title easily, and he's just made the club once again a formidable side in the Eredivisie. They don't lose many games, and they grind out wins when You think they're going to drop points, the substitutions do well, and I think he's just masterminded it, and he's brought himself back from maybe not being seen as a great coach last year. I think after the 2 title wins in a row, people may be saying like, oh, Koku's going to move on to a big club, and then that got dented last season. But now he's got his name back up there, and I think going into next season, which I think is going to be crucial for him, because if he has another campaign where PSV win a title again and he does well in Europe, then he'll be getting linked with some of the biggest jobs in Europe, I think.
I can see where you're coming from with Philip Koku, but he wasn't in my choices to be manager for the season, mainly because I think his team relied upon a lot of luck this season and Herving Lozano's goals. And I think 2 or 3 years ago, I definitely would have considered Koku to be manager for the season. But nowadays, I think it's almost expected with the resources he has to try and pull a title out of the bag. Maurice Stein was also a good shout, James. I've also gone for 2 other choices before I reveal my manager for the season. I thought Dick Advocaat at Sparta Rotterdam has been fantastic this season, as well as RZ's John van den Blom. But my choice for manager for the season is Excelsior's Mitchell van der Gaag. They're mid-table. They are 10th this season. But when you look at the resources that the squad has, the club is tiny. It's got the smallest attendance in all their Eredivisie stadiums, and Van der Gaag has not got a lot of exceptional players to work with. I know, James, you picked for Jurgen Matthijs, the centre back, to be in your team of the season, but in all my choices that I wrote down to be considered for the lineup, I didn't think of one Excelsior player because there isn't a standout player. So that's why I think Van der Gaag deserves to earn manager for the season. Sticking in Rotterdam, then, what do we think will happen with Robin van Persie this summer? Do we think that he'll stay with Feyenoord? So this is a question that was sent in from at Ajax Almaty on Twitter.
I hope so. I think if you compare what he's done since he came back to Feyenoord and what Huntelaar has done since he's come back to Ajax, it's night and day. Van Persie's breathed new life into Feyenoord. He's been used in the number 10 position, and he's scored goals. He's set up them. He was crucial in the cup final win. He just seems to be enjoying his football since he's returned to Netherlands, and he's getting fitness back. I think it'd just be a shame if he was just to call it a day after 6 months. I know he's won a trophy for the first time in the Netherlands. He might want to go out on a high, but I think if his fitness levels are right, he's 34. I think he can do another 1 season. Keep him in that number 10 position, then I think he could be a really good player for Feyenoord next season. I hope his head isn't turned by offers from other countries, because I think if Van den Bronckhorst wants to build a team around him, he could definitely lead them to a title challenge next season.
I agree. I think he's fully embraced returning to Rotterdam, and I think that the club have also fully embraced his return. A very interesting point from Mike regarding the comparison with Huntelaar, but the only thing I would say in Huntelaar's defence is that Huntelaar received an awful lot of confidence from Marcel Keizer, and he's not necessarily receiving that from Erik ten Hag. It's more for ten Hag to stamp his own authority on the team. So I think Huntelaar's had to be patient, but I fully agree. I think with the right players in the summer and Van Bronckhorst staying at Feyenoord, they could well mount a title challenge next season. I mean, they brought very well last summer with St Just and Habs as well, the former RZ left back. So there are possibilities for Feyenoord next season, but it'll be interesting to see if they qualify for Europe through the European playoffs, and interesting times ahead.
I think, speaking of Ajax, we should look at the questions that Gareth and Cam are both sent in. They're both very similar ones. Can Ajax retain the players necessary to challenge for the title next year? And also, Cam is asking more about, will more or less than 3 Ajax players be leaving this summer for 10 million euros or more? Are the Ajax players perhaps worth this much money? And do we think many of these players are going to leave?
I don't think as many players will leave as what people are making out. I saw the Daily Telegraph's Sam Wallace tweet that City scouts were after Matthijs de Ligt, to which I replied that he's not leaving Amsterdam this summer, and I put forward my interview with a Manchester City player who is playing for, or who will be playing for Manchester City next summer, Philip Sandler. I think with the ages of Kluivert and De Ligt and Frenkie de Jong and Donny van der Beek, they would be very wise to stay in Amsterdam for at least another season or two. I will admit that I think that Hakim Ziyech will leave. I think in the past he's turned down Sampdoria when he was famously at FC Twente, and that didn't necessarily come to fruition. But I think rumours circulating here that Roma are interested in securing his services ahead of the new season. And he's received a lot of unfair criticism from Ajax fans. And it was very strange in the game against VVV Venlo, where it appeared that pockets of the stadium were going out of their way to cheer him and to make him feel as if he was loved. Because when after when they lost in Eindhoven, the bus returned to Amsterdam and it was attacked, and he was attacked by Ajax supporters who couldn't accept the failure of not winning a title for the first time in 4 years and chose to use him as a scapegoat. But I think in terms of his footballing ability, I think he'll want to push on. So I think the very, very young players will stay, but I would not be surprised if Hakim Ziyech left, and I believe that he will go to Serie A.
Yeah, what a shame that Ziyech had all this poor reception from the Ajax fans, because he has still shown that he is one of the league's best players, and I can't believe that the fans almost think that he can do even more and even better for the team. It's really harsh criticism that's come in for him. But yeah, no, Ajax do stand to lose Amin Younes this summer, but it will be for free. I would have thought, yep, Ziyech would be moving, and then it gets a bit unclear from there, because you've still got the likes of Andre Onana who wants to leave, and you are Veltman, but Veltman's going to be injured for pre-season, so it's unlikely he'll be moving on. And then you get into the unknown. Do the players such as De Ligt, Van der Beek, Neres, do they all want to leave too? Now that they have had some experience in the Eredivisie, or should they stay? Because these players still have much to learn.
They must stay, Michael. They must stay. They're very, very young, and also in the case of Matthijs de Ligt in particular, when you hear him speak in pre-match interviews and post-match interviews, you wouldn't think he's the age he is. He speaks in such a mature way and in such a clear and concise manner that they're very, very young, and to go abroad at such a young age would be a shame, because if they was to lose their way or not be guided in the correct sense, then things could unravel very quickly. And they would be wise to stay and have another season or two here, and build from there. I mean, the general consensus of Ajax supporters here in Amsterdam since PSV have won the title is that they wouldn't have been much further away from winning the title if they'd have kept Marcel Keizer as manager. I've spoken to some Ajax fans that said they don't understand why the managerial change happened, and if they would have kept Marcel Keizer, they may well have pushed. Okay, they might not have eclipsed PSV Eindhoven, but they might have come in touching distance, perhaps.
Yeah, James, I see your point about Matthijs de Ligt, but when you've got someone offering you, I know there's always the opinion that, you know, if you're that good that you'll never be forgotten by a big club, but if you're Matthijs de Ligt and someone's coming for you with big money, promising big things for you, such as Barcelona, he could potentially walk into their starting 11, judging by the way he's played during this season, especially for the Dutch national team. Do you not think he's ready then?
No, I don't necessarily believe in the case of Barcelona, but they will put into practice what they tell him. That's my personal opinion. I mean, if you look at Sillerson had a wobbly time in his last season in Amsterdam, where he was very sloppy, conceding very, very strange goals, and went on to secure a move to become Barcelona's second choice goalkeeper. I can only draw the comparison, fellas, with Philip Sandler, who I've spoken to myself, who told me that when he received approaches from Manchester City, in the first instance, he thought they were only keeping tabs on him. He never thought that, because he said to me himself, you don't think that you're going to go from Pep Zwolle to Manchester City. It just doesn't happen. And then when Manchester City came to Amsterdam to speak to him and his agents, they really sold the club to him. And I think in his case with Pep Zwolle, he did have opportunities to go to other clubs in the Netherlands. He admitted that to me. But I think the temptation was just too much. But I think in the case of De Ligt, I think if it is Barcelona, you have to remember as well that in his case, I would find it such a massive shame if De Ligt is only involved in maybe Copa del Rey games or Champions League dead rubbers, perhaps. I could not see, as well as deserved it would be, I couldn't see Matthijs de Ligt, if he signed for Barcelona, starting in El Clasico. I couldn't see him starting against the Valencia or against an Atletico Madrid in the Wanda Metropolitano. It would be fantastic, but for me, it's not. I don't think he's good enough, because he quite clearly is, and having seen him play first hand this season, I can back that up. It's just I'm not sure that if the big clubs come calling, that they'll put into practice on the field, in terms of picking him and letting him play, what they would tell him to entice him.
I think the worry for De Ligt is the fact that it's not just going to be one club, it's going to be 3 or 4 that want him this summer, and that's going to push the price up. And I think if it gets to the 50 millions that the English media are talking about, or if it goes up to 60, 70 millions, Ajax can't turn that down. They say they can, but I don't think they can. And I think De Ligt's going to go. I've got a suspicion that he's going to go this summer. And even more worryingly, I think Justin Kluivert's going to go. Just the way he's talking to the media right now doesn't scream to me that he's staying. He's saying stuff like, I wouldn't be worried, but we'll see if I'm at Ajax next season. I think he's going to wait to see what offers come in. And I think it's going to be the same for another couple of players as well. I think there's a bit of chaos behind the scenes at Ajax right now, at board level, and maybe at management level, where some players will have their heads turned. I think Onana and Ziyech are both big personalities in that dressing room, and if they want out, I think that will creep into some other young talents, and they might want to leave as well. I think Onana's definitely gone if a club comes in. Ziyech's going to go. Dolberg wanted to leave last summer, and he didn't get the move. If another club comes in for him, I know he's been injured this season, but if another club wants him, then he might go. And I think De Ligt's going to get monumental offers this summer, and I think it's going to be hard for Ajax to keep him. And Kluivert's going to go. So I think another couple of clubs might come in for Neres, but I think he might stay. I think Frenkie de Jong and Donny van de Beek will stay. And then it's all about how Ajax go about replacing these players. They've got young talents coming through. I mean, young Ajax have just won the Eredivisie. They've got Kaiser who's coming through, Cassiera scoring goals for fun, Eiting. They've got the talents coming through. It's just they're going to have big offers that they need to try and turn down this summer. I don't think they can.
Mike, can I just ask, where do you think De Ligt will go?
I mean, the rumours around Tottenham right now, that if Alderweireld leaves them to another club, then they'll look to offer 50, 60 million. I think that'll be a good stepping stone. I think Barcelona, I think you're right. If Barcelona sign him, he becomes third, fourth choice there. But I think Tottenham, they've got Vertonghen and they've got Sanchez. I think if you put Sanchez and De Ligt together again, that's a partnership that's already worked. I think that'll be good for him, because he'll be in a big league with somebody who already knows how he plays, so that's less likely to make mistakes. I think Tottenham would be a good step to then go to Barcelona. I think going straight from Ajax to Barcelona might be a bit too much right now.
I think the opinion James had on De Ligt's not starting El Clasico if he played for Barcelona. Don't forget that De Ligt marshalled Ronaldo really well when he played against Portugal.
Oh, I'm not disputing that at all. I'm not disputing that he's not good enough to play. I just think that the way the club is, and the pressure involved at that club, that I don't think that a manager such as Valverde, or if they replace their manager in the summer, I don't think that he's going to choose De Ligt to start in such a high-powered game. And my advice for De Ligt would be to stay in Amsterdam for 1 or 2 years and assess all your options, and then make and then make the right choice. He doesn't have to run before he can walk. If he makes the right choices, he could go down as one of the. If he makes the right choices in future, he could definitely go down as one of the best centre backs the country will have ever produced. Obviously, that's long term, but he must make the right decision. But as I say, he appears to be a very level-headed young man, especially in the way he speaks. I find it very impressive, and I think he's got good people behind him. So should be an interesting summer ahead.
Absolutely, I think the conversation we've had about De Ligt just shows that he is going to be one of the best players that the Netherlands has produced in a while. We must make one last comment about Ajax before we move on, I think. Another question about David Neres. Now, do you think that he has the potential to become a striker, considering that at the moment he's a right winger? And I think sometimes fans have noticed that he's a little bit predictable, and if he was playing against some of the biggest teams, and I think the Europa League final against Manchester United showed this, that sometimes David Neres can look a bit predictable and a bit obvious playing on the right wing what he's going to do. So, what do you guys think? Considering you've got the likes of Memphis Depay, Julius Mertens, they're both becoming strikers.
I think it is possible, but I don't think that Erik ten Hag is looking at that. I think these types of development questions, I think Neres is likely to get more luck out of the current Brazilian manager Tite than Erik ten Hag. I found it very impressive the way that Tite, the Brazilian national team coach, has said that the majority of his places for the Brazil World Cup squad have been defined. But if a Brazilian player, regardless of what league he's playing in, shows his worth and shows enough fight and skill, then he's more than welcome to be brought into his squad. I think that gives many Brazilian players a massive incentive. I watched Neres when he played against Feyenoord on the 19th of April, and he scored an absolutely fantastic volley, and a la Raúl in the Champions League final in 2000, which I thought was tremendous. Okay, it was a bit from closer range, but absolutely tremendous. And I think there is possibilities for him there, but at his current club, I don't think the manager he has is looking to use him in that manner, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think if you look at what's happening with Memphis and Lyon and how he's exploded since moving centrally, you could say that it's an option for Neres going forward, just like it's an option for Bergwijn at PSV. It'd be interesting to see, but I think at Ajax he's not going to get the opportunity because they have so many central strikers coming through at the minute. You've got Dolberg, Huntelaar right now, then you've got Cassier behind them, then you've got Sierhuis, and you've even got a couple in the under-19s, under-17s that are coming through now. So I don't think he's actually going to get the opportunity unless it is for his country.
Last question we received this week was from Jordan, and he asked, can we talk about the transfer rumours, the ins and the outs of the traditional big three in the Netherlands? So where should we start? We've talked more about Ajax and who's going to be coming and going from there. I think Feyenoord's going to be an interesting mix of players such as Jorgensen, Vilhena, players that maybe could have moved last summer but stayed for Champions League football. Players like these could be moving on. But how about PSV? What do we think about the ins and the outs there? And is Marcel Brands going to have an impact on that as well, considering his future with PSV?
First and foremost, I've been receiving an awful lot of comments from Everton fans on my Twitter feed regarding when I made it quite clear that there's no news this end about a potential move. There's no quotes been come to fruition. There's nothing been released, and Everton fans appear to have ran with the quotes from the Daily Mirror from a cropped interview from a couple of weeks ago, and taking that as gospel, which is a little bit disappointing. But obviously everybody's different, and you have to respect people's opinions. But as someone who's been writing for Football-Oranje for nigh on 3 years, and we work together, and it's all a massive team effort, there's absolutely nothing concrete from this end that he's going to leave for Everton. My personal opinion all the way along has been that he won't. One confusing thing is that Everton fans believe that he's just a transfer guru and that he's going to replace Steve Walsh. But the fact remains he's not just the transfer guru, he's the man who makes PSV tick behind the scenes, not just in terms of transfers but also in terms of player contracts and being the link between the backroom staff and board level. He's the one that goes between the two, making sure that all areas are calm, that everybody's working together. And this is the same job he did at AZ Alkmaar, and he does this in an absolutely fantastic way. PSV have been quite clear from the off that they know themselves that if Marcel Brands does not want to leave PSV, then he will quite simply say no. And with the greatest respect to Everton, I cannot see Marcel Brands leaving PSV to go to Everton. I think what he would like is he would like a club maybe in Germany perhaps who's well established, or a bigger team in the Premier League to inquire about his services before he takes the role. And you've got to remember as well is that when he was signed from AZ Alkmaar to PSV Eindhoven to get this job, there was a lot of question marks surrounding him, and when he first arrived, people were like, "Well, you know, has a good reputation, but is he big enough and experienced and good enough for PSV?" And he's proved all those people wrong. So my personal opinion in that front is that he won't sign for Everton. We'll just have to wait and see. And I would like to let Everton fans know that if there's anything that's released from this end, I will do my best, and Football-Oranje will do our best to make sure that the correct quotes come online, and so that it's clear for everybody.
So James, who do you think that Brands will, if you say he does stay, then who do you think he's going to be looking to keep this summer at PSV, and who do you think he's going to end up resigning to leaving?
I think he'll look to keep Van Ginkel. I think he'll look to keep Brenet. I think Brenet. I think in the case of Jeroen Soet, he has to be very careful in terms of the club which comes in for him. In the past, he's been linked with potential suitors such as Benfica and even Crystal Palace. But he just has to choose very carefully. I think Luc de Jong may well be on his way. I think they will assess properly the squad that they have. And Arias, I think, will be on his way. I think he's been a great servant to PSV, but I think the club understand that he's given as much as he can for the club, and that if a good transfer to a foreign club, a Spanish club or an Italian club, something that he would like, then they definitely wouldn't stand in his way. But I think PSV will look to become even stronger, and it'd be interesting to see what Philippe Cocu does as well. I advocated on one of our very early pods together when we started this season that I believe that this would be his last season, and funnily enough, I still believe that. I don't know if he would look to think that, 3 titles in 4 years. Am I at the top? Can I bow out at the top, or will another club come in for him? So I think that Cocu may well leave. So I think that PSV not only attracting players, but I think they may look for a new manager, because I think Cocu will look at it and think this is the 3rd title in 4 years. That he wants to bow out at the top. So, but that's my own personal opinion. So we'll just have to wait and see.
I think the latest on Brands was in the Telegraph this week, where they said that he'll make a decision within a week. So I need to see what he does this week. But I think there has to be something in it for the fact that he's not just come out and said, "I'm not going to go." I think if he wanted to turn Everton down, he would have done it by now. And even the report in the Telegraph says that the English sources that they have are very confident that he's going to take over Everton. I think he's very much considering this offer. And it's at the stage now where I wouldn't be surprised if he does go. He's waited too long just to turn it down, I think. And yeah, you can see that he might just be being nice to Everton and he doesn't want to just turn it down because it's an opportunity. But
that's what I think, Mike. I think with the greatest respect, he's just being nice, because he knows that if he's too, in my opinion, if he's perhaps too aggressive in turning it down on the spot, that it may give other clubs the impression in the future that should they approach him, that they think, oh, well, he turned Everton down on the spot, maybe he won't give us the time of day, or maybe I think he's being respectful and edging his bets.
We'll see this week, but I think there's other cases as well with Everton that they have a very rich owner at the moment, and I think Brands, if he does take the job, will want assurances that Sam Allardyce won't be there after the season, and he want assurances that he has full control over everything. I think if he is offered that, and he's offered a lot of money by the Everton owner to sign players, I think it'll be very tempting. If he does decide to go, it's a big blow for PSV. I think they will lose Luc de Jong this summer. Van Ginkel's going to be difficult to get him back because I think he's done what he needs to do at PSV. I think he's coming back for a season where he might be given a chance at Chelsea, but I think there's other clubs around Europe that will want him. I think he might try and head to the Bundesliga or back to Serie A. I think he'll try and decide to go elsewhere. I think he's done enough at PSV. Arias wants away, Zoot wants away, and judging on the World Cup, we'll see how Lozano does, because if he has a good World Cup, I think a big club will come in for him as well. It's a big rebuilding job, and we'll just need to wait, because this week will be the news that Brands comes in, so we'll see by the end of this week. They have a lot of youngsters coming through. I want Cocu to give the likes of Daniel Malin, who they got from Arsenal in January, Cody Gakpo, another winger, and they've got Sam Lammers as well. So it's just going to be interesting to see what they do this summer if they need to get a new technical director, and that will slow everything down.
Shall we now talk about the Dutch under-17s? So the Euro 2018 tournament is in May, and they're in a group with Germany, Spain and Serbia. There are some really good games coming up. The first one against Germany should give us a good opportunity to see the likes of Chelsea's Deschwan Redan. You got some Ajax super talents in there as well. There's plenty to look forward to. Michael, I just wondered if you would like to give your opinion on the tournament, and how do you think the Dutch under-17s will get on?
I think this under-17 crop is very talented. I'm a bit disappointed that a certain couple of players haven't been picked, and I've criticised the coaching levels at youth level in the past for making some strange decisions. You've got a couple of Ajax players, Ryan Gravenberch for one, and Nachi Univar. He's only 15, but what he's doing right now for Ajax's under-19s makes him one of Europe's biggest talents, in my opinion. I'm surprised that he's not there. I think they've gone with the players that have got them to the tournament, but not necessarily the best talents at this age level. But it's still packed with a number of players that are going to do well. Redan's the superstar. I think if he stays fit throughout the tournament, he's going to score goals that can get Netherlands to the final and even win it. Then you've got, Brian Brobby. He's another striker. He's big for his age. He's fast. He's powerful. He's not a typical Dutch striker. He uses his strength a lot. Then in midfield, you've got Kenzo Goodmine. He's already, he's banging on the first team door. He's already made his first team debut in a friendly earlier this season. He's a regular at Young AZ. He's super talented, number 10. He's been compared to maybe Woosley to Wesley Sneijder. Obviously, he's still very young. And, you got another few. Liam van Gelderen is a very good centre-back. He's at Ajax. Somerville, the Feyenoord winger, is very exciting, along with Hatteren at PSV. I mean, it's a talented group who eased through qualifying for this tournament. But I just need to hope that the group's not just a bit too tough. You've got some tough nations in there. I think they got a horrible draw. But I'm confident that they can definitely make it through to the knockout stages, and then I'll see from there.
Yeah, it's a really tough group, but I think the German and the Spanish under-17s aren't quite as strong as we all think they are. I think this Dutch group of players is very talented. Maybe the defence is the weakest part of it, if you like, but there's some very fine midfielders and forwards, especially strikers in this squad. You've also got the Timber brothers as well to add to those list of players that you just said there, Michael. I think that this team can get very far, and I think it's going to be terrific to see how they get on, especially Deschwan Redan, and it's a matter of time as well before he's in maybe the Dutch under-21s, and he could even get a loan spell for a first team, professional team next season. Finally on that, we're at Football-Oranje, we're hoping to be at the tournament and hoping to see some of the players and see how they get on. So plenty to look forward to on that front. Now, I think to finish off this week's podcast, should we discuss a little bit about the promotion relegation playoffs that's happening between the Eredivisie and the Eredivisie? It's pretty much tied up now who's playing who, but it's always really complicated as for the tree. As opposed to picking, all the fixtures that are going to happen, I just wondered if we get, James, Michael, your opinions on who do you think the favourites are to come up this season or to stay in the Eredivisie?
Yeah, it should be very interesting. First and foremost, congratulations to Fortuna Sittard to gain promotion back to the Eredivisie after a 16-year absence. Very impressive of young Ajax as well to win the Eredivisie. Unexpected and fantastic by Michael Reiziger to have such a young group go on to win a very, very important title. In terms of the playoffs, my hunch is Almere City. With a manager, Jack de Geer. They've had difficulty in the playoffs in the past where they've nearly got there, nearly got through to the final game, nearly broke through. If I had to choose maybe two teams that I think may well come quite far in the playoffs this season, although there's a long way to go, I think that Almere City and Cambuur Leeuwarden may well reach the final games and have an opportunity to play Eredivisie football next season.
For me, Roda JC and Sparta will go into it as the favourites, I think, to stay up. The one that I can see challenging them, and the team that I want to see in the Eredivisie next season is NAC Nijmegen. They've got so many young, talented players that I want to see in the top flight, like Ferdi Kadioglu and Grunewald, the winger who's scored 2 and 2 for Netherlands under 21s. They were favourites throughout the whole season to win the Eredivisie until they changed manager. Pep and Linders, the old Liverpool coach, came in, and since then their form's dipped, and it's even to the stage now where fans want Linders to go. Which is a bit shock considering how highly rated he was at Liverpool. This was his big chance. I don't think he's really took it. But if he can get NAC back to Eredivisie, that might ease the pressure on him. I think they've got probably the best group of players going into the playoffs from the Eredivisie to challenge. But I agree, I'd like to see Almere City. And I always like to see a new name come up every few years. Fortuna Sittard will get next season. But I think Roda JC have hit the form right now. And Sparta Rotterdam have Dick Advocaat, and that makes them two the favourites for me.
Absolutely. My opinion is that I think NEC Nijmegen are going to miss out on promotion. The choice to change manager was the wrong one, and it's cost them dearly. But yes, I do agree that they have the best squad of players possibly in the whole of the Dutch second tier. But when they come up against Roda JC or Sparta Rotterdam, they have got slightly better players. Roda are backed with Danny Shahin and Danis Avdijay in attack. These two players have just started to click with each other, and it's really working for them. Let's see what happens though, because it's one of those where, even though it's over 2 legs, it's so difficult to call. But I think at the moment it could be that we only have Fortuna Sittard as the new name in the Eredivisie next season. So we're going to have a nice new name for Fortuna Sittard, but of course we are losing FC Twente, one of the Netherlands' biggest, finest clubs. Won the Eredivisie in 2010, but 8 years later, now they're relegated. It's a complete shock, isn't it? And this failure after failure at the club, sacking managers and what have you. Michael, what do you make of the situation, and just how unlikely was this to happen at the start of the season?
I think, looking at the club and the way it's run, this has been coming for a couple of years. I mean, since they won the title, they spent too much money out of their means. They now went bankrupt, and it's only been, I think, a matter of time before they got themselves into trouble. Looking at their squad, they should have had a good enough team to keep them up, and they invested in some good players in January, like Adam Meyer. But the way I see it is their midfield's very good. They have an okay goalkeeper, but in the summer they invested in Tom Boer as a striker. He scored a lot of goals last season in the Eredivisie, and it just hasn't worked. And after that, they've got no backup, and they've struggled defensively. The club's just a shambles at the moment. I think going into the final game of the season, all their players were talking about how they didn't want to go down and they wanted to fight, and then they go to Vitesse, who have not been in that great form recently, and get thumped 5-0. Like, defensively, they're absolute shambles. They're not going to go bankrupt, their owners are saying, but it's hard to see how they're going to keep the players that are on their wages that they are and mount a challenge to get back. next season. I think personally that we won't see them back in the Eredivisie for another couple of years, because I think they're going to sell a lot of players this season. They're going to struggle next year, and it's going to take them a few years to get back to even challenging for an Eredivisie place. It's a shock because they were champions only 8 years ago, but it just shows you what happens when a club spends too much money that they don't have.
James, Michael, thanks.